think that'll do. Hello everyone and welcome to Liam's Library. I've been away and I apologise for a couple of things. First of all, I apologise for Kevin Bacon month. It was a good 3 weeks, and on the fourth week of the month, I dropped the ball, and I apologise for that because I didn't do Footloose, and I'm sorry. I did Tremors, I did Hollow Man, and I did Stir of Echoes, but I didn't do Footloose, and you know what? It doesn't really affect me that much. I'm sorry if you were hanging out for it, but I just didn't get there. So I've been away for a couple of weeks, and I'll explain why. I have a new job, I work with disabled children now, and I never get a second to myself, like at all. So today I get a day off, and it's my payday, and it's my day off, and so I put on Facebook, alright, a toss up, what are we going to review today? Needful Things by Stephen King, which is a pretty poor adaptation to such a fantastic novel, or the Australian crocodile movie Rogue, that came out in 2007. So I thought I'd start it with a joke, like I did with Hollow Man. But instead I thought I'd just start it with the crocodile song, because you know what? Never smile at a crocodile, because they're not alligators, they're crocodiles, and they live in the Australian outback, and they will fucking eat you. So here we go. What do you get when we cross Jaws, Wolf Creek, and a $26 million budget movie in the Aussie outback? Now, this movie, man, Rogue. Now, do you know who Greg McLean is? Greg McLean made Wolf Creek. He put Aussie horror on the map. Now, Aussie horror was already on the map, don't get me wrong. Greg McLean made it scary and international and R-rated and made tourists really scared of travelling to Australia, because Mick Taylor, played by John Jarratt, might be out there with a high-powered rifle and a really rapey fucking exterior, and he was gonna get you Europeans, right? And man, I saw that movie in the cinema and it scared the living fuck out of me, and I lived there. So, a few years after that, Greg McLean, the writer-director, decided he'd do, and I'm just gonna come out and say it, he'd do a tribute to Jaws. And he called it Rogue, okay? So, it's Rogue, and I fucking love this movie, right? For me to love a movie, I've got to watch it more than 10 times. And I can watch this over and over and over. It's a great fucking popcorn movie. It's a great monster film. And it's a great Aussie flick too, with a lot of different nationalities in there. But we'll get to that anyway. That's my first page. So, right, the movie starts with early morning Northern Territory. Now, I went to the Northern Territory when I was 10 years old. I'm 35 now. I've never been back. I live in southwestern Australia. But the Northern Territory is this big, red, scary, ancient place, man. And it's beautiful, covered in gorges, the Kimberley and Kakadu, and it's fucking amazing. There is the nature of the outback, and there's nowhere better to see the nature of the outback than the Northern Territory. That's why, it's like, oh, this is a state. That's a territory. And it is, man. It's like, it is the great fucking unknown. So, this is where a movie starts. A camera starts with early morning Northern Territory, and we're seeing the sunrise, and we're seeing the creatures, and we're seeing the gorges, and we're seeing the rivers, and we're seeing how primal the entire place is. And so here we go. Here we go. Look at me. I'm starting at the end of my notes. So let's start at the start of my notes. See, my problem is lately, I take way too many notes at the start of the movie when we need to fucking move along, right? So this is Rogue, a Greg McLean movie. So, hang on, no. So here we go. First of all, I've been to the Kimberleys, I've just said that, when I was a kid. And I've seen saltwater crocodiles, and they're fucking scary. And the thing is, if you go on a tour up there, it's not like a tour where you're sitting behind the glass and it's Jaws 3 and you're in SeaWorld. If you go to the Northern Territory and you get in one of these little tin boats, these crocs fucking jump up at you, right? And they go from fucking 8 feet to fucking 16 feet. And they can go to 18 feet and they can go to 26 fucking feet. What I like about this movie is the croc in this movie is 18 feet. They built it that way and they programmed it in the CGI as 18 feet. So it's believable, but it's not ridiculous. Like, it's not a megalodon, but it's a big fuck off croc. It's as big as you might see, 40, 50 years ago, and they live a long time. So anyway, I digress. Fuck, I say that a lot. Anyway, so Jaws versus Australia. This is what this movie is. This movie is called Rogue. Now, if you remember, there's a scene in Steven Spielberg's Jaws where Chief Brody's really drunk. He's sitting there at the kitchen table and he's talking to the oceanographer, Matt Hooper, played by whatever. We're not here to talk about that. So he's sitting there with the oceanographer, Matt Hooper, and he's saying this theory that you call the rogue theory. This animal that swims around while the feeding is good, and it continues swimming there until the food supply is gone. And then Hooper says, like, Richard Dreyfuss. There you go. That's who plays Hooper. And he says, this is called the rogue theory. And it's just a theory that I happen to agree with. And then they decide to go out and look for the shark. Now, this movie is called Rogue. It's about a rogue crocodile. Now, this movie is about a rogue crocodile in the Northern Territory in a very isolated part of a river in the Kimberley region, where a bunch of tourists get on a boat in the middle of the day. The boat is piloted by Radha Mitchell, who is an Australian actress, and she does an American accent fantastic, because if anybody's seen the Denzel Washington movie Man on Fire, you know that she's really good at this. And she's the captain. And we go upriver and we look at crocs and whatever, and they get attacked by a big saltwater crocodile, a rogue, in fact, and they actually end up in a spot that they're not supposed to be in this river, and this fucking crocodile puts a fucking hole in their boat, and they end up on this little island. This little island, now, if you know anything about up north, you know that all rivers are tidal. Fuck, the ocean's tidal, man. You can look at the ocean at fucking 8 o'clock in the morning, and then at 11 o'clock, there is no ocean. It's nothing but sand flats. You know what I mean? And then at 1 o'clock, the ocean is at your fucking fingertips, because it's that tidal. It's that amazing, actually. Like, you can't really explain it unless you've seen it. And I have seen it. I lived in Broome for a while. It was fucking unreal. And I have seen it in the Northern Territory, but when I was a kid. So, the premise of this movie is a bunch of tourists on this boat, and they're attacked by a saltwater crocodile who gets very territorial. So, I love the indigenous music at the start. So it's like, it really touches on the Australian tone. And also, there's one thing that it kind of spins me out, like there's, let's say, 5 or 6 characters that are Australian, 4 characters that are American, an Irish chick, a British family, but the American saves the day. So we'll get to that. But so anyway, Radha Mitchell, she's a great actress. She's an Australian actress, yet she does the American accent fantastic. Now, I'm going to say this, right? I grew up in Warnbro in southwestern Australia. Sam Worthington used to be a bricklayer here, just around the fucking corner. He probably built this fucking house. Who knows? You know the star from Avatar? That's Sam Worthington. I've never been impressed by him, man. I know he comes from my backyard. Fuck, man. Work on your accent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in Terminator Salvation, 1 minute he's an American Terminator. The next minute, I can hear that Australian accent come through it. And it really takes you out of the fucking moment. It really pissed me off. You know what? Have you ever seen Clash of the Titans? Not a bad flick. I'm talking about the remake with Sam Worthington. He's like, my father was killed by a god. So hang on a second. Are you being ancient Greek? Are you being American? Or is that Aussie fucking sound just coming through with everything you say because you have that intensity? But fuck, man, you're in multi-million-dollar fucking blockbuster Hollywood movies. Fucking get a fucking accent coach. Get someone who can help you with your American accent. Pisses me off. Now, This movie is why he doesn't piss me off. It's an Aussie movie. So all of a sudden, Sam Worthington rocks up with his drongo fucking mate, and they're in this boat, and they're fucking poaching some ducks, and they're fucking out there drinking piss and listening to Akadaka, and they come across this tourist boat that's going up the river in the Kimberleys, and they come across Ryder Mitchell's boat, and they obviously used to fuck or whatever. It's not a big deal, but he gives her a hard time. You know, he moons him, and he says some Aussie stuff, and you know what? He's very convincing. I like him in this. I don't like him in anything, except for maybe that first movie he was in, what's it called? Bootman? And actually, you know what? That other Aussie movie he was in, Sam Neill. Dirty Deeds. So, okay, 3 movies I like Sam Worthington in. Dirty Deeds, Bootman, and Rogue. When he's in American movies, he does my fucking head in, right? He does my head in. It's like, you know what? I'm not saying I can do better. I'm just saying, if you're getting paid what you're getting paid, just fucking work on the motherfucking accent, right? So anyway, I digress. So, they go up the river. Now, okay, so what's really cool is, alright, it's stock footage, you know, the intro is just this big water, it's not a water buffalo because we're not in America, they're not called that. It's like it's a polled cattle. So they're big fucking horn things, and a croc just takes it. So in the first 3 minutes, we see a croc just take some cattle. And it's that quick, it just drags it underwater. Then we see Rogue. Now, in some kind of B-grade horror flick, we might see that happen with like someone fucking yahooing or getting drunk across the river, and then like they get eaten, or you see like how big it might be. You don't. This is just showing this can happen. Crocodiles will get you off the bank of a river, whether you're an animal or a human being. Which are all animals, whatever. You know what I mean. So, this American journalist, let's see, played by Michael Vartan. He does it good enough. It should have been Patrick Wilson, but we just weren't lucky enough. Sam Worthington, I've talked about him, and trust me, I will talk about him at length. And Ryder Mitchell, who I think is fantastic. And the rest is this multicultural little fucking European, British, American, Australian group. Stephen Curry's in there also. So he rocks up at this really Australian outback Northern Territory pub. And he's a journalist. And what he does is cover these stories like restaurants and out of the way areas. But he has to go on this river cruise with Ryder Mitchell and look at crocs. And that's what he's got to do. His editors sent him on this wild croc chase, anyway. And while he's sitting there on the phone to his editor, he's looking up at the fucking wall, and he sees the size of these crocs that have been caught in that area or photographed in that area, and a 12-year-old boy swallowed fucking whole, right? And like, you know, not a bite taken out of him. One of these crocs, which is actually, the photo of that is an actual real photo, and the croc is bigger than the croc in our movie that we're talking about. That's what I like about what Greg McLean did. He didn't make it too far-fetched. He made it so this could fucking happen to people if they got caught in this situation. So, here we go. John Jarratt. John Jarratt is in this movie. Now, we all remember John Jarratt from Wolf Creek. Now, he's a psychopathic fucking outback rapist murderer who kills tourists, based on the fucking notorious serial killer Ivan Milat, who thank fuck is dead now, burn in hell, and rot there. But Mick Taylor is the character's name, and it's a Greg McLean movie. Greg McLean directed Rogue, Greg McLean directed Wolf Creek. Now, John Jarratt scared the shit out of the whole planet. It got Quentin Tarantino's attention, and it was scary enough to fucking make everybody really notice Australian cinema. Now, this movie puts John Jarratt in it because, you know what? He wanted to be in it. I think when I watched the special features of this, he put his hand up for it, like, can you please, like, just, I'd like to be in your movie. Okay, so they make him a widower. And he's got his wife's ashes, and when they get right there, out in the middle of in the middle of this tidal river, he pours his wife's ashes out, and it's quite a touching scene, and we got some nice music for it. I'm just going to take an intermission to say, I'm sorry about my red face. I just went to the hairdressers. We have a big weekend coming up, and I had this big, ridiculous fuck-off beard. My beard is so wiry that when I shave it off, I look like a mottled red fucking like I've just been stung by a Portuguese man of war, but it'll go away with moisturizer. Let's not get sidetracked. Thank you. So, now, there are some Poms, some Yanks, and the Aussie Drongos. Like I said, Sam Worthington and his mate, they rock up and they start harassing this boat, you know, flying around his little dinghy, and they start pissing off Rada Mitchell's tourist boat. They obviously used to bang or whatever. Now, okay, so the whole movie, Rogue, starts off with the boat heading off into the great unknown. Now, I know you've seen Steven Spielberg's Jaws. If you're watching my channel, of course you have. The third act of Jaws is where the movie really starts. You know, we've got over the killings at the beach, we've got over all the politics, and then when Quint, Hooper, and Brody get on that boat and head out to the deep ocean, that's when the movie really fucking starts. It's them three against the monster. Three against the monster. And we're all fully invested by them. This movie pretty much starts with a boat heading out to where you know there's a monster. So it's almost like, you know, the first act is the third act in this. But it kind of works backwards in this movie. So, okay, so our main guy in this movie isn't our most interesting guy. This American guy, he's okay, but he's nothing special. Rada Mitchell's more interesting. The crocodile is way more interesting. The families really make you want to know what's going on with them because they're just so different. And then, all of a sudden, as they've seen some crocs, they've done their talking, Sam Worthington's pissed them off, and then he's taken off on his dinghy because he's just, you know, he hangs around this river and he shoots ducks and he fucking knows all about crocs. Him and his mate, they harass the tourists and they fuck off. Rada Mitchell and their boat, they're like, all right, well, let's call it a day. And then all of a sudden, as this American guy, he's looking up in the sky with his video camera and he sees a flare go off. Just at the last minute, he's like, shit, I think I saw something. So he lets them know. And they're like, well, are you sure? Are you sure? And they're all kind of, he's like, where did you see it? Over there. And they all look. And then, yeah, fuck yeah, they all see the second flare. And it's clear as day. Someone's in trouble upriver. So here we go. They head up the river. And as they head up the river, like they're like trying to tell her, listen, we need to get home. Like we didn't sign up for this. We want to go. She's like, no, listen, if you were stuck out here, you'd want me to rescue you, so let's just see what's going on. And it's really, you know what, it's pretty cool. This movie probably would have worked as a B movie. But a $26 million budget, it was never ever trying to be one. It was trying to do what Jaws did, and I don't care. It really did. It's obvious from the start it tried to not be a B movie. This isn't fucking Alligator, the 1980 film, which I love. This isn't Crocodile, that Japanese fucking horror flick that I fucking love. This isn't any of them. You know, this isn't Piranha Fish or bloody Croc Shark versus Mecha fucking Croc or Octo Shark or Sharknado. This really tries to be an actual film. The way that Jaws took the world by storm and just cleaned up at the box office. I'm just going to say it now so I don't have to say it later. $26 million budget this movie was. It made $4.6 million back. It fucking flopped. This movie was a flop. They didn't even come close to making their money back. Not even close. And it's a shame because this movie is so fucking enjoyable. Anyway, so 20 minutes in and an hour and a half left, and a flare goes off, right? They're very upriver, and it really shows with the camera work how big the Kimberley is. And as they're going up there, you know, Rada Mitchell, you know, the female who's piloting the boat, she says, listen, we never come this far upriver. We shouldn't be up here. And then there's Stephen Curry, the cameraman, and he's taking photos of these, you know, really far off cave photos of big fucking saltwater crocs painted by the indigenous on the cave walls. And it's obvious. It reminds me of Anaconda with John Voight, you know, where there's like, you know, all them paintings. But you know what I like about this movie? No shark music. So there is, but there isn't. So like dun 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 dun. We get the shark music straight away in Jaws by Steven Spielberg. In this, there are 3 attacks, and we don't hear a fucking thing. So it's not jump scares, it's the actual events, and that's okay. The shark music starts later on, when the suspense really rises, right? So as they get around this corner, and they get to this little bit, they see this boat that's upside down in the water, and they're like, shit, that must be where the flares are coming from. And then as they're talking, there's no music, there's no nothing. You see this black shape, literally 0.3 of a second, just come up and bang and hit the boat, and they have to fucking drive for this island because they're sinking, and the croc has hit their boat and put a big hole in it. Now they're stuck on this island. Now this is what I like. John Jarratt from Wolf Creek, the old man who's just buried his wife in the river there with the ashes, he rocks up and he's like, holy shit, this is a bloody tidal river, isn't it? This is a tidal river. And all the Americans and the Brits, they don't know what that means. They're like, what does that mean? He goes, do you see where them trees are? In about 4 hours, that's where the waterline gets to. So we got to get out of here, and whatever attacked our boat's going to get us because, rah, rah, rah. And he goes, no, mate, I'm swimming over. I'm going to swim over to the other side because fuck doing that at night time. And the American guy's like, listen, man, I agree with you, but you know what? Like, let's just talk about it first. As everybody turns their head, you just hear splash. And everybody looks back, and you know what? Me as a viewer, and the audience in the cinema, and whoever the fuck you are watching this movie, you all turn, and the American guy's just gone. So, you've seen a black shape, plus you hear a splash. We have lost our first victim. And you just see this big old croc tail just go like that. The American chick, her husband's dead. He's just been taken off without a scream, without a yelp, without anything. Silent killer. No shark music. No Durnham. No bring. No nothing like that. He's gone. It's very well done. The effects are fucking fantastic. The suspense is through the fucking roof. Now everybody starts panicking. Even Radha Mitchell can't really talk because she doesn't know what the fuck... Well, she knows what's going on. And then she's doing her best to explain. Crocodiles are territorial. This may be a rogue. We're deep in its territory. Because we don't have a boat to fuck off, it's going to get more angry and more angry the longer we stay here. And as the water's rising on this little island, these 10, 11 people, they can't escape. And the sun is going down and the water is rising. Man, the suspense in this is fucking unreal. Now, Jaws has like all the political bullshit. And the 4th of July, and a town that's running out of money, and a husband, who comes from New York and is scared of the water. We don't have to deal with that. So that's why I think this movie does quite well with what it has. It doesn't have much to go on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it is the storyline that I've just explained to you. A boat attacked by a croc. The people are stuck on a tidal island. And they're going to die if they don't think of something quick. So, you know what? It finds a good way to do its hour and 50 minutes. It finds a way to do it, right? So it does. So, and when you see that, do you remember in Jaws where Chief Brody's saying like, yeah, I can go slow ahead. Come down here and chump some of this shit. And he's throwing the dead fish over the boat. And the big mechanical shark comes up. And you have not seen this shark yet. You've seen it for a couple of seconds, but you're waiting to see it. They're out in the ocean, and this big thing comes up, and Chief Brody walks back and he says, you're going to need a bigger boat. Now, I'm constantly going to make references to Jaws, right? Now, when it takes that American fella, that is your moment from Jaws. So that's as good as you're going to get to see it. We're like 35 minutes in now. And the look on Radha Mitchell's face, man, like, fuck, I'm not a professional anymore. I don't know what the fuck to do. And then good old Sam Worthington rocks up. Right, so, good old Sam. So, thing is, the American actor in this, he's a coward. He's a pussy. He's a coward. And he's terrified of the outback. He's terrified of mosquitoes. He fucking hates the flies, and he's a big sook. Now, I love movies that do this. The Hills Have Eyes, original and remake. When the geeky guy with the glasses is trying to protect his family, but he's useless, and then by the end of it, he kills a town full of fucking mutants. High Tension, where, you know, that European chick ends up fucking going after the guy and killing him with that fucking big buzzsaw. And most notably, The Descent, by Neil Marshall, where all those girls go cave diving. And they're cave divers, and they're very fit, yeah, but they're up against some scary monsters, and they just start coming back against the monsters and fucking them up. That's my favourite horror movie, where you think they're going to be fucked, but they band together and get tough. Now, this movie isn't like that, but it kind of is. So, like, the tourists are shitting themselves, but the American tourist and Sam Worthington work together and get pretty staunch. But I'm not going to give away the deaths. I've given away one death, so death. There's some deaths, right? I'm not going to give it away. So we're going to move along quickly. So Sam Worthington rocks up with his buddy, and they get knocked off their boat, and they have to swim to the island too. They put this big rope across so that the people can swim across, pull themselves across on the rope. But the thing is, they're talking about crocodiles have burrows. And they do among big hollow logs or big giant trees. And they bring the dead bodies of buffalo cows, or whatever the fuck they eat, and they drag them there so they can rot for a while, and then they can eat them at their leisure. Now, they explain this in the movie, so we've only got a couple of hours, right? And I like how Sam Worthington does it. It's like, we've got to do it now, while this fucker's busy. And you know what? I hate Sam Worthington. Fucking hate him, man. He fucking wrecks all my fucking good movies. But he's got some really good one-liners in this, man. He's like, you know what? Like, we've got to do this, and we've got to do that, and like, rah, and fucking, you know... And he's got some really good fucking one-liners. And, you kind of cheering for Sam Worthington because he's going to get this fucking shit done. He's no Robert Shaw from Jaws, but he's definitely a Bert from fucking Tremors. Nah, he's not even that. But he's something. He's Sam Worthington from Rogue. That's good enough. Neil, whatever his name is. And there's a bit where they actually ask her, Radha Mitchell, the driver, they say, have you ever seen a croc do this before? And it's like, this is still pretty fucking weird, right? Now, do you remember in Jaws? It's like, Brody asks Hooper, have you ever seen a great white do this before? And he says, no, because they've never seen a great white do this before. All right, so we're going to move on. So there's a bit where they've got a rope attached to here and a rope attached to here, and they're trying to get across the river. Now they fuck up, and the suspense and the human error and the big tree drops and splashes in the water, bringing the croc. Now that reminds me of Jaws, where Hooper's cage drops and the big thing hits the boat, and they're like, it's giving away! Bang! There's like, you could nearly fucking pinpoint the Jaws to the Rogue. Bang, 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 bang. It's nearly a fucking timeline, okay? So here we go, but we're gonna get past this. We're gonna get past this. It's funny. It's a very racial crowd. Like, we got people from everywhere. We got Aussies yelling at Yanks in an Aussie movie, directed by an Aussie writer and director. But the Americans saved the day. And do you know what this gets on Rotten Tomatoes? You can Google it if you want, but trust me, this gets 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Tomatoes, if you're watching from where my homies fucking Gino Alfonso lives, well, Rotten Tomatoes is 100% this movie gets. That's pretty cool, man. Like, the Metacritic doesn't give it that, but Rotten Tomatoes does. So, what I like about this is John Jarratt from Wolf Creek. He's in this, and he proves that he's not just a psychopath, even though, he might be in real life. I mean, he comes across that way. So, and he can act, he's got some really good lines in this movie. And like I said before, this movie does really well with what it's got. So now, bang, the tourists get away. Radha Mitchell, the Australian chick that drives the boat, she gets eaten by the croc. Not eaten, but taken. And our American guy with her dog, because there's a dog, there's a puppy, that we all like, oh, poor Kevin, we love Kevin, hopefully Kevin lives. Sometimes the animals live, hey. Sometimes they don't. So the American guy is now walking through the Northern Territory bush at night. And it's fucking, you've got owls and you've got mosquitoes. And it makes it almost look like the Amazon because it's pretty dark out there, man. It's very heavy. It's heavy bush. You could probably compare the Amazon to the Northern Territory outback if you were deep in it and you were on your own. Fucking oath you could compare it to that. It's like the Amazon. So I watched the special features, man. Not today, but I watched it back in 2007 when this movie came out. I watched it on DVD. I got it from fucking Video Easy. They don't exist anymore, but I got it from Video Easy, and I spent the day watching the special features. And we showed how they made the big crocodile burrow, and they built it in a studio. And they also built the head of this croc. They didn't build the whole croc, or maybe they did, but thing is, like, there was so much CGI when I watched it this time, and I've watched this lots, right? So it's like, like I said, they made this 18-foot croc. But, like, I remember watching the special features where he, okay, so what happens is, he's walking through the bush, and the dog runs down this hole. Now, the hole is this crocodile's burrow. Now, the burrow is where Radha Mitchell, this woman, it's taken her. So there's a couple of dead bodies in there, and she's alive, right? So he fucking falls down to this hole looking for the dog, ends up finding her, realizing she's alive, and here we go, some wicked suspense, right? Some wicked suspense. Because all of a sudden the dog starts barking, woof woof, and runs up the tube, and you just hear, arr, arr, arr. Kevin's gone. That's a spoiler I'm going to give. The dog dies. You know, I'll always tell you if an animal dies, because you might not want to watch a movie that happens in. Heads up. Kevin gets munched, but luckily we don't see it. Well, kind of we do, because it's big. And then we hear the croc music, not the shark music. The croc music. It's like, it's like got some synthesizer going on. It's just a stretch of John Williams fucking music from Jaws. It's a bit of a difference, but it's good. So I'm glad it takes a while for that music to kick in. And you see this big 18-foot croc just sliding down this tube, and it gets darker in there because he's so big, he just fills the whole tunnel. So old American mate picks up fucking Aussie girl and ducks behind this rock and puts her up there. The big croc swims along, eats the dog right in front of you, and then sits there as if he's asleep. The suspense in this is really good. Fuck knows why this movie didn't make its money back. Because I think it should have. It got me on the edge of my fucking seat, and it always does. So he gets her, he gets the American chick, he swims across the bit, and he keeps looking back, and you just see the big fucking $100 million year old dinosaur sitting there like this, asleep with its eyes shut. And he's like, yeah, puts her up there, looks back, still asleep. Looks back, and then you hear, and it looks like it's in a different position. Like, it really does. It looks like it's fucking completely different. Like, it's moved. But unless you're a winder, you're not going to know. And if you're in the cinemas, you don't get to rewind it. So, like, that motherfucker moved. It's a bit more forward now. But you didn't hear a thing. And then he's like, oh, fuck, I've got to go. Picks her up, moves her, and then you just hear splash. And when he turns around, there's no big dinosaur there anymore. There's just water coming for him. And it comes after him, right? And here we go, the final battle. Right, the final battle, and all he's got is this big long bit of wood, and it ends up biting his fingers off, and it's very suspenseful, and he fights it off. Anyway, who cares? He fights it off, and he fights it off. Now, what I like is, eventually he stabs it in the eye, and it takes a minute to fuck off, but then it comes back for him. And he positions himself. He puts a bit of wood here, stuffs it into the rock right behind him, and he's got this big spear, and he's like, come on, you fucker. He doesn't have any good memorable lines like Kevin Bacon in Tremors, where he's like, can you fly, you sucker? Or, of course, Chief Brody in Jaws, when he's like, smile, you son of a bitch. He says, come on, you fucker, and that's about it. Probably could have worked on the script a bit more, maybe instead of spending all that money on special effects, and maybe actually writing something fucking memorable at the end. That's what I thought, anyway. Anyway, the croc fucking jumps out in all its CGI glory, wraps its face around him and in this rock, and is biting. You see the bit of wood come straight through its brain. There's a bit of a screech. See goodbye, it's dead. Eventually, he climbs out of the croc's mouth. Now, this kind of pissed me off. There's no extra blood on him. Have you seen Die Hard? I know I bring up Die Hard a lot, but at the end of that movie, he's fucking covered in blood, man. The remake of Hills Have Eyes, when that fucking guy with the glasses comes back with his baby and his dog, there's not one bit of him that isn't covered in fucking blood. That's what needed to happen when he crawled out of the crocodile's mouth. He needed to be covered in gore and blood, and that's where I think it needed a bit more B-movie added into it. Because it's like it was just trying to be too much of a crowd pleaser, and maybe that's where they fucked up, because I wasn't convinced at the end. I really wasn't. I was convinced by all the maggots and worms crawling in Radha Mitchell's body, even though she was alive, like the the Australian chick, when the American guy pulls her out of the fucking burrow. But yeah, he wasn't convincing. He needed to be covered in scratches. I know he was missing 3 fingers, and he had some blood on his head, but he needed to be fucking covered in gore and green croc blood and muck and shit and just fucking throwing up and stinking. That would have been way more convincing. Anyway, he climbs out. The helicopter service rock up. The road music kicks in, like the na-na, almost like the end of the thing. And they get airlifted out. They all get airlifted out, and then at the end, Radha Mitchell says, let's have a look. Radha Mitchell says something, right? It's like, Radha Mitchell says, I swear I wrote down what she says. It's like, yeah, she's like, how was the tour? How was the tour? He's like, well, could have been better. Do you remember when Clint's dead, the boat's sinking in Jaws, and Hooper says, Brody says to Hooper, can we get in on those? And he points to the barrels, and they start kicking. And he's like, you know what? I've always hated the ocean. And Hooper says, Martin, I can't imagine why. And it just changes you from the suspense you've been feeling to like, wow, they're gonna live and it's everything's okay. And just such a half-assed line as like, how was the tour? Shit, it could have been better. That's piss weak. So the ending, the dialogue at the end of this movie really fucking lets it down, and it really does. Now, I'm going to talk about the animatronics. Now, apparently they used animatronics in this movie. I watched the special features. I watched them build the croc. Now, even in the last scenes, where they're supposed to have the big croc head snapping at his fingers, that's supposed to be animatronics. It was so CGI, it wasn't funny. So let's talk about Nostalgia Critic when he's yelling at Jurassic World on YouTube. They used animatronics, but they CGI'd over the animatronics. So it's like, oh no, I don't like the way this moves. I want it to move more fluidly. So even though that looks kind of real, let's CGI over the fuck out of that. We'll just paint CG all over it, and the people will be happy. Well, I wasn't happy. I reckon they should have made it way more Jaws and way less fucking Jurassic World to the Fallen fuck off kingdom with that shitty Coke 2 fucking dinosaur. Anyway, I digress. So, this is a great movie, and I'm glad I reviewed it today because, you know what? I did Tremors the other week, and the similarities to Tremors as opposed to Jaws, the similarities to Rogue as opposed to Jaws, there's way more similarities. So, watch it, enjoy the Australian part of it, and all the Aussie overtones. The acting's great. They must have had fun making it, and I don't actually know how long it took them in production, but it looked like it didn't take them that long, So I don't know where the $26 million went. I really don't. Jason Blum could make this for fucking 5, and maybe better. So maybe Rogue 2, Jason Blum. I'm looking at you. Maybe give that a go, Blumhouse. But all right. So I was umming and ahhing about what next week was going to be. Now, it was either going to be George Romero's Day of the Dead, because it's my favourite one of the Dead trilogy. Not trilogy, fuck, there's way more than that now. But the 3 that I like, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead is my favourite. So I was going to do that, but you know what? I've kind of changed my mind. So what I've decided is next week, to keep in theme with me talking about animals and monster movies with good special effects, and not to mention I've made that many references to Steven Spielberg, next week I'm going to be doing Steven Spielberg's Arachnophobia. And I have arachnophobia, and I'm not going to enjoy watching this again, but I've watched it over and over. So Jeff Daniels and Julian Sands in Arachnophobia, and I'm going to give it the full fucking treatment. So heads up, this is Creature Feature Month at Liam's Library. So tune in, Because it's going to be arachnophobia, and strong possibility I'm going to do Deep Blue Sea with Thomas Jane. So look after one another, read some good books, watch some great fucking movies, and don't take any shit from anyone. Bye.